Silent Hill Origins. This survival horror entry released back in 2007. It was the fifth installment in the series, but served as a prequel to the first game. I never played Origins at the time, or any Silent Hill game up until now. Now, the PS2 port received mixed reviews, but I like to form my own opinion. So, I hopped in a DeLorean to find out if Silent Hill Origins was actually worth playing.
Does the darkness know your name?
Silent Hill made its first appearance in 1999, developed by Team Silent for the PlayStation 1. Survival horror games in the 90s used pre-rendered backgrounds like the Resident Evil trilogy, but Silent Hill changed the formula with the use of real-time rendering of 3D environments. The game was a hit, reviewers were awarding Silent Hill 9s and 10s, and ended up selling over 2 million copies worldwide. This was the beginning of the franchise, but you're not here to watch the history of Silent Hill, so let's explore the game's premise. The game's protagonist is Travis Grady, a trucker who's haunted by flashbacks of his past. On a dark, rainy night, he decides to take a detour through Silent Hill as he's late for a delivery. He notices a cloaked figure that runs out onto the road, so Travis immediately slams on his brakes and exits a truck to check on their condition. He notices a girl on the road who runs off, so he chases after her to make sure she's okay. He arrives at a house that's on fire and can hear the screams of a girl coming from inside. Travis enters the house only to find the burned remains of a young girl who's lying on top of sacrificial markings. He carries her body outside, but upon leaving the house, he passes out. Travis wakes up the next day on a bench in Silent Hill, and this is where the game begins. Now that's all you need to know for now, but we'll cover the game's story in detail later in the video. We'll begin by looking at the game's visuals, and the first thing that I noticed was the noise filter. This adds a film grain effect onto the screen to give it that creepy horror aesthetic. I wasn't a fan of this. In fact, I thought there was an issue with the game. I eventually realised this was an intentional gameplay mechanic, and there's no way to turn it off. Until you finish the game. I understand the vibe the devs were going for, but it made the game look less sharp, less detailed, and kind of fuzzy. Like taking a bump of Ket. Not that I would know, I'm a law-abiding citizen, baby. This was a shame because the graphics in Origins looked great and they still hold up well in 2025. You see, the PS2 port had some upgrades in comparison to the original PSP release. These included a graphical overhaul consisting of more detailed character models, improved textures, and supposedly better lighting. I say supposedly as this is one of the darkest fucking games I've played in quite some time. Now this level of darkness is deliberate to enhance the atmosphere and make the game unsettling. All this really did is make it difficult to see things, so much so that you can walk straight past items that are right in front of you. The game is so dark that if Travis pulled his pecker out, he wouldn't be able to see it. There are no options to increase the game's brightness, so you'll have to make do with Travis's flashlight. I'd say you'll be in dark areas for around 75% of the game, but when you're outside or in lighter areas, the game does look very nice. The actual lighting mechanics, for example the glare on your weapon, or the illumination effect on your flashlight, now these do look good. These aren't game breaking or a reason not to play Origins, but every now and then, especially in the darker areas, you'll wish the game was a bit brighter. It's also worth noting that I've brightened the game's visuals in editing, in case you're thinking, the game looks fine to me, buddy. Before we move on to Origin's sound design, I will summarise by saying the game has nice looking graphics. The visual fidelity was taken down a notch with the film grain filter and the darkness. Now one of these mechanics would have been fine, but both at the same time, doesn't work, like my jobless wife. Audio is important in a survival horror title. It helps to build suspense with ambient sounds and unsettling music. When both are combined, they help make the game world feel more immersive, and that was the case with Origins. The background music caught me off guard as it was very good and fit the dark and grimy feel of the game. The soundtrack was composed by Akira Yamaoka, and that may sound familiar as he worked on the other entries in the series. Fun fact, Akira also composed the music in Dead by Daylight's Silent Hill chapter and was the music director for Lollipop Chainsaw, which is a game I reviewed on the channel, wink wink. When there's no background music, you'll hear one of two things. The first is absolute silence, which works well in the dark setting to keep you on edge. Alternatively, you'll hear radio interference, which is letting you know there's enemies nearby. But it wasn't all peaches and cream as there was an audio bug. The background music would abruptly stop playing halfway through the track. It happened a handful of times in my playthrough and is a known issue on the PS2 version, but it didn't affect the gameplay, so I didn't really care. I'll wrap this up by saying the voice actors delivered their lines well.
Dr. Kaufman wants to meet me over at Cedar Grove Sanitarium, and he'll be mad if I'm late.
The sound effects were fine and the music was great. With the visuals and sound design out of the way, it's only fitting that we move on to the gameplay. The game is played in a third-person perspective, which alternates to a fixed camera angle in certain areas. Now the third-person camera handles fine. You need to press L1 to turn the camera, and it'll switch to the direction that you're facing. I did have a few issues with the fixed camera though, as you could exit a door and be immediately attacked by an enemy that you can't see. This only served as a minor inconvenience, but it was annoying whenever it happened. Origins follows the same formula of the other Silent Hill entries. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This consists of exploring the game world, solving puzzles, and engaging in fisticuffs with monsters, aka combat. There's several weapons that Travis can acquire, including his fists, which was a first in the series. Yes, there's plenty of fisting action between Travis and enemies, but the fun of Origins is the variety of actual weapons that can be used. You'll come across household appliances and other tools including hammers, wrenches and meat hooks. All melee weapons have a durability meter and will break after a certain amount of hits. There are also rarer melee weapons that can one-shot certain enemies and break immediately. These included portable TVs, filing cabinets and typewriters. What made this hilarious was the fact you have infinite storage for these massive items. When Travis pulls out a typewriter and bonks an enemy over the head with it, you can't help but laugh. Travis isn't wearing a backpack, so you can't even give him the benefit of the doubt as to how he's carrying all of these items. He pulls them out of thin air, so I can only assume he was a magician before he was a trucker. There is a caveat to using the one-shot items, being a longer animation. This slow animation can be interrupted by fast enemies as well as ranged attacks, so you want to be as close to them as possible. But you don't want to get too close to some of the enemies like the straitjackets or nurses because of the grapple mechanic. This is a quick time event where enemies will mount Travis. This is a quick time event where enemies will grab Travis. You need to press the corresponding button inputs to break free and avoid taking any damage. If you mess up the inputs too many times or you don't press the buttons fast enough, you'll get a game over. And speaking of game overs, the game trolls you whenever you die. For whatever reason, a loud air horn plays when Travis is killed. It just seems to be making light of the situation, and it made dying quite funny. This type of sound effect would work in a multiplayer game to annoy someone you just killed, but it was hilariously out of place in Origins. If you die, you can reload from your last save. Each location has 1 or 2 save points, and if you save often, which I did, you won't need to worry about dying too much. I'll go into more detail on dying in the difficulty section of the video. Steering back in the direction of combat, there's also several firearms that can be collected, and these absolutely melt through enemies. There's a shotgun, assault rifle, revolver, and even more. I made the mistake of killing every enemy I came across with guns, and quickly ran out of ammo for the rest of the area. It's a good idea to conserve ammo for the fast moving and bulkier enemies. Moving on to the exploration, there are several locations to visit within the game. Silent Hill itself acts as the overworld. The streets are flooded with monsters and damaged roads, meaning you'll have to detour to access buildings. Now you'll be pausing your game often to figure out where to go next, followed by opening your map again to confirm that decision. You see, the map marks key objectives, locked doors and otherworld portals, which I'll touch on shortly. These locations include the sanitarium, theatre, as well as the hospital. Now whilst all of these look different, they all play in a similar fashion. Origins has a mechanic that lets you switch between realities. There's the normal reality and the dark alteration of reality called the Otherworld. Otherworld is accessed via mirror portals and is a manifestation of Travis's mind. The Otherworld mirrors the location of the real world, but it has a dark aesthetic like the dream world in Nightmare on Elm Street. Performing an action in one reality typically affects the other. But what type of actions, I hear you say? Well, these are going to be puzzles, riddles and memory tests to make sure you've been paying attention. There are notes that can be found and stored in your inventory that provide clues to some of the riddles. There's a main puzzle or riddle in each area, and once solved, this will lead to a boss encounter. Once you've completed the game, you unlock a New Game Plus save file. This adds 2 additional final endings that are determined by your actions in the playthrough. You also unlock accolades, which are basically achievements. For example, beating the game in under 2 hours, killing enemies with your fists, and collecting over 300 items will unlock an accolade. These also reward you with new items and weapons, but that's not all, ladies and gents, there's even more. You also gain the extra options menu where you can turn off the noise filter, which makes the game look 10 times better. I mentioned it it earlier, but you shouldn't have to complete the game to disable this filter. It objectively makes the game look worse. I'm more passionate about this filter than a Twitch streamer with one viewer. Which is usually them watching their own stream, but that's passion, baby. The devs put a hell of a lot of effort into endgame content. If this was released in 2025, this would be classed as DLC and we'd be paying for it. There's plenty of replayability here for those that want it, but is Origins worth playing in the first place? Well, we've not answered that question yet, as there's more of the game that needs to be unpacked. With that said, I propose we look at the game's difficulty next. Hey guys, Senor Donut here, obviously. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you. Now back to the video. The combat in Origins isn't very challenging, and if I'm being honest, it's easy. Travis can take a lot of damage before he dies, meaning you can stand and trade with 99% of enemies with most weapons. The screen will pulsate with red borders, which means you're low on health and need to heal. But there are so many medkits, health drinks and ampoules to restore your health that I never really felt in any danger. The bosses were also easy. If you save ammo and shoot them from a range, they won't even be able to hit you. And even if they do, you've got an abundance of healing items. But there are a few things that make the combat tedious as opposed to difficult. The first is your ability to dodge attacks. All you can do is run, there's no dedicated evade button. There's a 1 second delay between you pressing the run button before Travis actually starts running. This is obviously bad when an enemy is right next to you, as it's hard to get out of the way. It feels like input lag, but this was an intended mechanic. Imagine adding a 1 second delay to your dodge rolls in a Souls game. It wouldn't feel good, right? Well, that's what evading in Origins feels like. There also seems to be a vacuum effect with enemies that can grapple Travis. You know, the mechanic where they can mount on top of you. You can try and hit an enemy and they just automatically start the quick time event. If you fight every single enemy you see and only use your weapon ammo, then yes, you will make the game harder. Ammo is pretty much needed for the boss fights, and fighting every enemy will consume your medkits. But this is a survival horror, so you should know that already. The real challenge of Origins lies in the puzzles. Most of these left me absolutely stumped and had me questioning how I got my job in real life. There were times when I had gathered all the clues for a puzzle. I was in the right place to use the clue, but I still couldn't solve the puzzle. It reminded me of the Gnomes episode of South Park. You know, where they collect underpants, question mark, and then profit.
You see, phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 2, phase 3, profit.
In my case, it was collect clues, question mark, followed by puzzle solved, except I couldn't figure out the middle part. Let's look at the two puzzles that gave me the most trouble. So the first puzzle, and I say that with air quotes, requires you to find 3 numbers to enter a date on a calendar. Now 2 of these are found easily by playing the game normally, and they also stand out. The game is begging you to find them. But the last number I needed was nowhere to be seen, like me when it's time to split the bill. I searched every corner of the map and couldn't find anything, so I was convinced I'd missed a clue. I didn't want to use a guide. I'm a YouTuber, and using a guide is beneath me. In fact, using any form of guides makes you a scrub. Oh, fuck this. I've been looking for this number for hours, man. I'm just gonna Google it. How to solve calendar puzzle in Silent Hill Origins. You're not going to believe this one, ladies and gentlemen. To get the last number, you need to examine Travis's lucky quarter that he's had the entire game. Unless I missed a note somewhere, who the fuck would think to check this? This is why companies made guides, and a key reason we all used GameFAQs 20 years ago. I mean, it's like putting a KFC inside a gym. It just doesn't make any sense. And also, if we're being real, Travis's stupid coin looks like a stone. His parents didn't give him an allowance like regular kids, so they picked up a pebble from the backyard and tricked him into believing it's a quarter. Alright guys, alright. I'm calmed down. Breathing slowly, breathing nice and slow. I'm calm. I've calmed down. Except I haven't calmed down. Where was the logic in putting the number on the quarter? If there was a flashback or a scene which alluded to the quarter being of significance, I would understand. But there was none of that. So if you ever get stuck in this section, remember, just check the quarter, bro. Then there's the final puzzle, which might as well have been in Japanese. You need to add 4 pieces to a base and align them correctly. Think of it as a Rubik's Cube with extra steps. Unfortunately, the lucky quarter didn't have a solution for this one, and whilst this one did take me a while, it at least provided some clues. We've established the combat in Origins isn't difficult, but then again it wasn't designed to be. A lack of resource management can make the game a bit more challenging, but nothing too crazy. The camera angle can screw you over at times, but this wasn't an issue for the most part. For those that enjoy puzzles, I think you'll enjoy the few the game has to offer. Apart from the few that I struggled with, I did enjoy them. I also used a Word document to take note of clues, which is something I've not done in years. Now that we've covered the difficulty, it's time that we looked at origin story. As I'll be uncovering the plot, there will be some spoilers. This will also be quite detailed, so understand if you want to skip this section. If you don't want to be spoiled or don't care about the story, then go to this timestamp in the video. This is your last chance. Okay, here we go. Travis Grady is driving his truck at night when he swerves to avoid hitting a young girl. He follows the girl on foot and comes across a house on fire, with screams coming from inside.
Someone's in there.
He rescues the girl from the house, but she suffered severe burns from a cult-like ritual. Not only does Travis have balls of steel, willingly running into a house on fire, but he's also immune to carbon monoxide, like using close combat on a Gengar. Travis loses consciousness outside the house, only to wake up the next day in Silent Hill. Travis recalls what happened to the girl the night before and travels to the hospital to find out what happened to her. Now, I was slightly confused here, as she looked pretty dead to me. I understand that modern medicine has come a long way. There's AI diagnostic tools for diseases, machines that can detect early changes in the brain, and magic that can bring burned corpses back to life. Now look, I'll give Travis a pass on this one. He's been through a lot of shit in the last 24 hours. Travis speaks to Dr. Kaufman and queries the girl's condition, who states they've had no new patients recently. He tells Travis to go and check the reception, despite no receptionist being there. He was basically telling me to fuck off with extra steps. Whilst Travis continues his search on the second floor, he's interrupted by a monster wearing a nurse's attire. After killing the nurse, he stumbles across a mirror with a strange reflection. Not only can Travis see himself, but also the girl he rescued from the house fire. He touches the mirror in disbelief and is transported to the Otherworld. Now just a quick recap, Otherworld is the dark alternative reality within Origins. It takes the same appearance of the real world, except there's lots of blood, rust and monsters. Actions performed in either world can affect the other. Travis finds a small pyramid-shaped item called the Future Piece, and the brown-haired girl appears. This makes Travis pass out again, and at this point I was concerned he had a heart condition. Fortunately, he wakes up in the hospital lobby and is greeted by Lisa Garland. Now Lisa's a trainee nurse that tells us the girl's name is Alessa and that she died last night in the fire. Travis decides not to tell Lisa about the alternative reality, as well as the monsters, as he believes it was all a nightmare. Lisa mentions that she's on her way to the sanitarium to meet Dr. Kaufman. Kaufman is the guy Travis met earlier in the hospital that had no idea who Alessa was. However, this doesn't quite add up, because Lisa knows exactly what happened to her. It's almost as if we're playing a survival horror game and there's a looming conspiracy. Like the conspiracy in South Park when someone crapped in the urinal.
I just come from the men's restroom, and somebody went number 2 in the urinal.
Whilst passing through the streets of Silent Hill, Travis enters a butcher shop and he encounters the Butcher. What are the chances? The Butcher kills another monster, but we're able to remain undetected. He also resembles Pyramid Head in design, but has a cleaver instead of a knife. Travis arrives at the sanitarium and runs into Dahlia, the mother of Alessa. She admits to letting Alessa burn on fire.
You all left that girl to burn.
So we did.
Which wasn't the greatest choice of parenting. Mother of the year, ladies and gents. Dahlia claims that Alessa's death was part of the grand plan and leaves with unanswered questions. Travis then finds out that his mother Helen tried to kill him when he was a child.
They saw the devil inside of him. I had to kill him.
What is this? International Bad Mother's Day? 2/3 of the women I've come across so far want their kids dead. This was quite an alarming ratio, so I called my mum to make an inquiry. Hey mum, hope you're well. Got a different question for you today, but you know me. Did you ever try and kill me when I was a kid? Oh, well, of course. You don't remember the time I pushed you down the stairs? Oh, yeah. I was in the hospital for months. It turns out that Travis's mum was being held in the female isolation ward within the sanitarium. Travis investigates his mother's cell in the Otherworld and comes across her demonic counterpart. She's wrapped in a giant cloth, being protected by an iron cage. After defeating her, she drops another pyramid piece, but you already know what happens next. Alessa appears, which causes Travis to faint. He should have got Lisa to check him over before leaving the hospital. He wakes up and finds a Fiesta ticket, so take a wild guess as to where we're going next. At the Fiesta, we're given the best news I've heard all game.
I can't stop thinking about you, Travis. I want you. You're all I think about.
Well, alright, baby, I could tell by your outfit. Our dreams are crushed seconds later, as Lisa was just fucking with us.
See? I could be a star.
Travis finds out that Alessa used to visit the theatre, but one of the actors' costumes used to frighten her. They'd also suffer from headaches and nosebleeds, but was this Alessa's doing, using some form of supernatural powers? Or was the actor up all night doing blow? Who's to say? Travis then uncovers the mystery of the stage with an otherworld portal being formed. Inside the portal, Travis kills one of the easiest bosses in the game. He picks up another puzzle piece and works out that Alessa needs these for whatever reason. Alessa shows up for a brief cameo appearance and Travis passes out like Tiny Temper. Travis wakes up in the theatre and finds a key to the Riverside Motel. He vaguely remembers visiting the motel as a child and it's where he'll be going next. I don't know how Travis keeps waking up next to items that tell him where to go next. The convenience factor is at an all-time high. Think about it. If you passed out in the middle of the street, do you think you'd wake up next to a guide that outlines how to get your wallet back? Travis arrives at the Riverside Motel, doing battle with monsters, travelling between realities, and solving even more puzzles. That's until he comes across the butcher, but he kills it with relative ease. While searching through rooms, he finds a broken hole in a bathroom, and can hear some strange noises coming from below. Is it some form of demonic monster? Is this another manifestation of Travis's troubled past? Or is Dr. Kaufman giving Lisa a physical examination?
Lisa?
Travis.
Not only did the doctor steal Travis's girl, but they're also having a party. And is that what I think it is on the table? Lisa angrily leaves the room with Dr. Kaufman, with Travis being threatened on their way out. Travis searches more rooms in the hotel and comes across room 500. He has a flashback that reveals his father Richard hung himself in this very room. His father's reanimated corpse tells Travis to face up to what happened, followed by this.
Your mother and I will see you in heaven, son.
After killing the memory of his father, he passes out and wakes up in the hospital. Here Travis collects the last piece of the pyramid puzzle, referred to as the Florus, and reconstructs the mysterious item. The Florus can amplify or contain an individual's psychic powers, and if you haven't guessed by now, it's Alessa's powers that the Florus affects. When exiting the hospital, Dahlia, Alessa's mother, accuses Travis of freeing Alessa. Here we see Alessa in the flesh for the first time, but also the strength of her psychic abilities. Alessa starts destroying the town, but Travis manages to escape and makes his way to the Green Lion antique shop. He finally decided to sell the lucky quarter his father got him that he wore around his neck like a noose. Too soon. Within the antique shop, Dr. Kaufman and other cult members are performing a ritual on the burned version of Alessa. Talk about beating a dead horse, baby. Travis gets knocked out and wakes up in a hell-like reality referred to as nowhere. Here he encounters Alessa's dream, which is the final boss that was imprisoned within the Floros puzzle. But hold on a second, Travis collected the pieces and rebuilt the Floros. I don't remember him trapping a demon in it. Where'd the demon come from? He defeats the monster, resulting in the Floros making a baby, which rests on Alessa's body. Whoa. Is there anything the Floros can't do? As fucked up as this whole situation was, Travis conquered his inner demons and is back in the real world. He gets back in the truck and sees a manifestation of Alessa holding the baby. Nonetheless, Travis smiles and drives away, thus concluding the story of Silent Hill Origins. The story in Origins had some interesting elements, but I found myself asking more questions as the game went on, as opposed to getting answers. Some of the lore is found via notes, and if you miss some of these, you won't have any context as to why things are happening. Look, I liked Travis, but I feel like his backstory could have been further developed. He seems like a regular guy that isn't haunted by what happened to his parents, yet the game pushes the narrative that he is. The nowhere location seemed to come out of literally nowhere. I don't remember that being tied in at any point. My only issue with Alessa is the baby Cheryl. I didn't get that at all. Despite what I've said, the story was fine. It's nothing to write home about, but it's not Sonic 06 either. We're at the point in the video where we tie up the loose ends, but we still have a question that needs to be answered. Was Silent Hill Origins actually worth playing? I'll answer that by summarising the main aspects of the game. The combat was fine and on the easier side by design. There was a hell of a lot of weapons to use, and I did see the humorous side in killing enemies with TVs and typewriters. Now, whilst firearms did trivialise the combat as well as the bosses, this made the fear of death slim, which isn't what you want in a survival horror. The controls were fine, although they were on the tankier side, especially when it comes to Travis's manoeuvrability. The fixed camera angles were a pain in the arse at times, but fortunately these weren't always detrimental. The story was interesting, although there were a few parts that left me scratching my head, and that was nothing to do with the recent outbreak of head lice within my home. But despite everything I just said, I did enjoy playing the game. I liked Travis's character, the dark tones, and even the story. All the aspects of the game were just okay, and despite that, I still had a good time. This was my first Silent Hill game, so I'll definitely be playing the other entries in the series as well as F when that releases. So, to answer the question, yes, Silent Hill Origins was actually worth playing. A big thank you to everyone that watches my videos as well as this one to the end, and a warm welcome to all of my new subscribers. You guys clearly liked the Predator video, so don't worry, there's plenty more to come. And don't think I've forgotten about my existing subs, I've got you guys covered too. My next video will be out in a couple of weeks, and I hope to see you all there, baby.
Well, see you around.